Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and today I'm joined by Tia from at Role Players TV. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. But before we continue, Dave, I just want to do a quick little splurt. I am an 18 plus content creator, which means we may talk about some themes that are not safe for work. If that's something that makes you uncomfortable, that is okay. You don't have to stick around and watch. But if you go to any of my social media, you may see some things that are not safe for work. So I just wanted to give a quick content warning, trigger warning, anything like that before we continue. But I hope you're all having a great day and much love.
Thank you for that. So, you hear it, folks. Proceed with
With caution.
caution and at your own
It's
risk.
fun, though. It's fun. Come on down.
Yeah. So, you've been summoned back because you're part of our great glitch of 2020, where we lost a bunch of videos that we did, a bunch of the chats we did. Unfortunately, yours is one of them, but it does give you another excuse to bring you back and chat again.
Honestly, I'm so happy because in that first video, I was so tired and I looked like absolute trash. And it was the first thing I thought of when I read the email. And you're like, we lost the video. Can you please come back? I was like, oh no, how
No,
awful.
I don't believe you could ever look like trash.
Oh, I
So,
love you so much.
but I'm glad to have you back and chat some D&D. And and folks, for those that are watching, we're gonna have to cut this one just a tad short at the very end because I'm headed over to Nord Games from here to
Ooh.
talk about their Kickstarter and Dangerous Destinations. Ted will be over there as well. So if an hour isn't enough, you can go over there for even more. So what's new and exciting in your world?
Gosh, I mean, I have started a new D&D campaign over on my AVN channel, which is fun. I love streaming Dungeons and Dragons on Twitch, but Twitch is a family site, and a lot of the things that are involved in some people's D&D games, not everyone's, can be a little bit extreme. You on Twitch, you can't talk about anything sexual. All scenes fade to black. You can't talk about violence or gore. You really got to fade those scenes to black. And I'm a bit more of an R-rated D&D player inside of my own home games, and I was looking through the WotC rules about where you can stream and where you can also, quite frankly, earn a profit, because I love streaming D&D, but like you, this is also my job. We all got to make money to eat. And I originally thought about streaming Dungeons and Dragons over on OnlyFans, but part of the D&D rules is that you can't have your D&D content behind a paywall. And I was really saddened by that because like think I could make a great D&D show that included, sexuality and fun, etc. But and as a partner, I also can't stream on sites like Plexstorm because it goes against my contract as a Twitch partner. You can't stream on other gaming sites unless you're a guest, like how I am here on the show as a guest. And then I found AVN, which is a place that allows live streaming for free with no subscriptions required. And we've started our D&D campaign over there. And at first I thought nobody here on this site is going to want to watch this. They're just going to want to watch other stuff. And I am shocked at the amount of people that are like, oh my god, this is D&D, this is so cool. I get more viewers there than I got on Twitch, and like the donations and the support from people has been mind-blowing, and I'm really excited about this character because it's a character that's very near and dear to my heart. Her name is Zun Vondry. I have tons of personalized stuff with her. She's my dark elf, she's my necromancer. I love her. I'm retelling her story for a bunch of different purposes, but it's also in my homebrew world as well. So it's just all these little things about D&D and my 18 plus life that I just get to mash into one thing, and it's awesome. Um yeah, that's what's new.
Well, oddly enough, it's funny. I can't remember the YouTube channel, but the creator is Stuart, and they do like a bunch of like Pokemon content as well and mix up D&D content. But they're telling me like they backed up like a bunch of their content to Pornhub.
Yeah, I mean, It's interesting because WotC says, like, as long as there is no paywall and people can access your content for free,
Uh,
you can make money off of it. And I was like, hmm. You know, they list YouTube and Twitch and Patreon, but it's not limited to those things as far as I've been legally advised. So hopefully,
yeah,
but nobody's come after me yet. So we'll see. It's
yeah.
been really fun.
Well, they weren't doing it for any reason other than a place to store it in case YouTube something happens to YouTube. But
I
I
mean,
was like,
that's super smart. I try to keep all of my stuff in my Google Drive, but like who wants to
yeah,
upload stuff every single time you do an episode? I say to a YouTube content creator. Oh god, processing times.
yeah, yeah. Well, we Dropbox everything. Like we've got like vast stores of Dropbox videos.
That's super
Uh,
smart.
yeah, I mean it's not too expensive to do like the full year anyway, and you get like so much space. But video takes up a lot of room, as you very well know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's chunky.
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of R-rated content in our own home games because it's like me looking at Ted, and it's just
Yeah.
sorry, Ted.
Sorry,
Matter of fact,
Ted.
like we tell a story where like one of our players wanted to play was playing a half giant dominatrix
Ooh,
and like
that's
was
a good
started.
one.
I know, but and was starting to like get into it.
Mhm.
And like Ted is like, I did not consent to this because he was the dungeon master.
He's like, I'm not ready for this. Well, I mean, consent is a super important thing to talk to you about at your table. And like D&D is different now than it was when
Yeah.
I grew up. We didn't have consent cards or all of these safety tools back in
No,
the
and this is going back a ways too. It's like
Yeah.
you just like played with the people that showed up at your table. They
Yep.
were your friends. Maybe you made them uncomfortable. Maybe you didn't, or vice versa.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there's plenty of tables that I've gotten up and been like, you know what? See you later. But
but
I
the
mean,
hobbies evolved. Our tables
exactly.
evolved, and and it's a good thing.
It is, it is. I'm super happy that D&D is at and tabletop in general, I guess. I say D&D because D&D is the game for me. Like that's the game that's closest to my heart. I like other tabletop games, but I personally in my personal opinion find D&D the best. Please if you enjoy other games, do not take that personally.
So, what is your approach to kind of adding these kinds of themes into your games?
Well, I have a dungeon master that I trust explicitly. Like, there is nothing between us that we could talk about that would make me uncomfortable. Always having a content warning at the beginning of every single episode to let people know, like, hey, there are things here that may make you uncomfortable. Please be aware of that. And I mean, this was quoted, I can't remember by who, but it was so important to me is that everything we're doing in Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy. It is not reality. The things that we do as our characters are not the same things that we would do in real life. I would never murder somebody. My character would murder the whole goddamn world if you let her. Like, and take
That's
everything.
that is such a large portion of the D&D characters anyway. So,
Yeah, and I think it goes along the same line of like I cannot stand when people say that video games cause violence. I think that is absolutely absurd. And so it's the same thing in Dungeons and Dragons. The things that we explore that might be terrible to some or might be erotic to others. It's all consensual. It's all fantasy. It's not reality. And knowing that and being comfortable going into it, I feel like you can just discover things about yourself that you could not in the real world. I know more about myself from playing D&D over the past 23 years than I would have known just going on my own way, you know?
for sure. I mean, some of my friends have always kind of used it as like a stress relief or their own version of therapy for
Mhm.
years
Oh,
and
it's
years.
D&D is therapy. Absolutely escapism.
My buddy Mark would call me up and be like, "Are we gaming this weekend? I need to kill shit. I've had a bad week at work." So
I need to hit something, but not actually.
yeah, yeah. So that was that was his release. That was his way of not hitting things for real and just hitting them in the fantasy world.
Well, those are my Driz Duerden foam swords over there, Twinkle and Icing Death, and that's my Dungeons and Dragons wizard staff there, which can be used as a melee weapon, so you know.
Nice. That's why I got to be careful breaking into a gamer zone.
Yeah, exactly. I got
You
wards.
you you never know what you're going to be stabbed with. I know. I've got like a flail around here somewhere, and a battle
Flails are
axe that I
so
can't
much
swing.
harder to use than people think they are. Like, to
Yeah.
keep that constant momentum going, like, it's tough. I used
Yeah.
to collect swords and daggers, but when I moved to the United States, I gave a lot of my nerd collection away, which I deeply, deeply regret. I wish now that I had just paid the international shipping and stuff like that, but
I have the same pain, but with mostly with like RPG stuff. I just like have this personality quirk. If I don't touch something for a while, I have this. I just need to get rid of it.
I'm the opposite. I hoard everything. Everything that I can keep, I keep, and I need to stop. I've gotten a little bit better about it since I've moved in with a roommate because I feel like they're silent. They're probably not, but they're probably silently judging me. Like, why don't you just get a new player's handbook? That one is trashed.
I do have one around here with the pages falling out.
I am a terrible sinner, and I do not care about bending the spine of my books or writing directly in them, which makes some people just, ooh, no.
To be honest with you, I rarely even use physical books anymore. Like D&D Beyond, pretty much everything.
D&D Beyond is such a blessing, and the day that they have maps involved in their whole setup, I probably will use nothing else. I like Roll20 and D&D
Yeah,
Beyond together, but if there's ever maps in D&D Beyond, I don't know why I would use anything else. I'm sorry, Roll20. I love you. I love everything you've
well,
done.
some people play other games, so there's
Yeah.
that.
That's true. Some people play other games. I forget D&D is not the only game out there. But I've played so many. I've played so many. I'd say that
Yeah.
like my second favorite game outside of D&D is definitely Vampire the Masquerade. I like VTM5, but the original Vampire the Masquerade Set Out for Life was definitely the way to go. They had a really good
Do you think
trading
that was a
system.
better system, or is it just nostalgia?
You know, I was one of the first people invited to playtest VTM5 over on Encounter Roleplay, and I thought maybe it was nostalgia. Um, but then I really got into VTM5, and I own almost all of their books now. Unfortunately, I can't show them off because this is my stream room, and my D&D books just simply, and other books just don't fit in here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I like their rouse check system. I like how they handle blood stuff and whatnot, but I feel like it's kind of tamer than it used to be. And I love violence in D&D.
Yeah.
I love being the bad guy. And violence isn't necessarily about what being the bad guy is about. One of the things that I would love to do an in-depth topic on someday is how to be an evil character without being an asshole. I mean, I think Raceland Majir and Gromph Baenre are probably the two greatest examples of how to be evil, how to be successful without being a murder hobo. But that is a topic for another time. But VTM, or the original Vampire the Masquerade, I feel like did a really good job of allowing you to be a monster. They have a really good forward in their book about we can play monsters, but don't become them in real life, you know?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the point of that world too, right? To be the monster.
Yeah. Everybody needs a monster. There's got to be a bad guy.
The reason why I generally hate evil campaigns is they always feel like a parody
I
instead
feel
of
like,
real.
yeah, I feel like a lot of evil campaigns try to do very grimdark and it ends up kind of comedy, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I I'm the kind of person I love love triangles in my D&D. I love drama. I love uh character bleed where it's a very thin line between true hatred and role-playing hatred, like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. And which is just not appropriate obviously for children at at any point, and even some younger adults, but I think that It can be such a beautiful thing.
Well, I mean, that's like kind of the great thing about this hobby is there's lots of space to enjoy it in a lot of different ways. Um, yeah, Doug's kind of echoing my sentiment as well. To the yuck, grim dark.
Don't yuck someone's yum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That being
Yeah, yeah,
said,
yeah.
people should enjoy what they enjoy. Although I don't know.
Yeah, you're entitled to not like what you don't like, though. Like, I don't like other role playing systems. That's cool, but if you like it, go nuts.
One of our fellow players and writers, Steven, he says he can bring me around. I just I guess the grimdark kind of settings I played in, I just didn't really enjoy them. I feel like the real world is too grimdark. I think that's what it breaks down for me, and I'm just like, I want I want more silly and kind of fantastical nowadays.
I feel like the opposite of that. Like, there are terrible things happening in the world, absolutely. But I feel like
Do you
in
find it
my
empowering?
no, not at all. The terrible things that are happening in the world
No,
are
no, no. I
awful,
mean,
but like,
playing in a grimdark setting where there are terrible things,
oh
where now
yeah.
you can interact and affect them, unlike the real world where we have very little we can do about a lot of things.
hmm I find that in my social media sphere, there is a lot of forced positivity, a lot of sometimes I feel, quite frankly, false positivity. And as a content creator, you're almost expected to be happy all the time and everything is great. And
Yeah.
that's just not true. Sometimes shit sucks. Like, and I just want to have a place where I can let that out and not have to be like, hey, I'm role players. I'm having a great day today, even though I've only had 4 hours sleep and I have a headache and I feel like I want to murder something, but everything's fine.
I I can get behind that. Yeah, some days you just want to be like you want to turn it off, and you feel like everybody has it turned on. You're like you can't all be this happy. I think you're all full of shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, some people are genuinely that happy. Like my girlfriend, Kelly, Miss Violence, she is constantly bubbly, and I lived with her and I was like, there's no way you wake up like this. And she does.
Yeah,
Without coffee, she's just like, everything is awesome.
you start examining her for a off switch.
Like,
It's
are
got to be here
you
somewhere.
I mean, if people can be that happy in their lives, then awesome. And also with like evil characters, it's not always about being upset all the time either. Like there are times my evil characters are truly happy with where they are in life and they haven't done anything terrible to get there. You know, I have an evil character who is experiencing love for the first time and it is absolutely warping their reality because they have only ever known terrible things, which I won't get into right now, but you know, the darker side of things. They haven't been shown love or kindness or affection. And to them, it's just like this person is trying to use me. This person is trying to get something out of me. And they're slowly realizing that, like, no, this person genuinely just not only likes me and tolerates me, but loves me. That is very strange. And to have that kind of experience is kind of cool.
So that character's having their worldview kind of tested and shooken up.
And I mean, the one thing I play in D&D is that, you know, there's lawful good and lawful evil and stuff like that, but those I feel personally are more guidelines than actual rules. A character that is evil doesn't have to stay evil. They can have their world changed. I don't think that in all cases there should be redemption arcs for villains. I think it's really important in D&D that some characters stay villains. Like in Curse of Strahd. Strahd is evil. Strahd, I don't believe, should have a redemption arc. I think that it's very important that he stays the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Is
Um,
the bad guy.
is the bad guy exactly?
Yeah, yeah. In our Curse of Strahd game, we were trying to reform him.
I mean, I
I don't
think
think
that
it's going to work.
I personally hope that it doesn't, but I mean D&D can be played however the hell you want to play it. So if he
So
ends up being reformed, then awesome, good for you and happy for your players.
so when you played through Curse of Strahd, Did you
I
interact with?
actually have not. I've only been a
Oh,
guest star for an episode in Cursive Strahd. I don't personally believe in spoilers, so if
okay.
you want to talk about it, please go ahead because I separate knowledge from gameplay. I don't meta at all. So
Yeah, well, everyone's experience is unique anyway, and it's going to
yeah.
change. Like, all right, like so, Eugenio, the Jazzy Hit is running for us, and it's a non-stream game, but there, I guess there's a book that's in it, and like the way it's presented in the material is, it's like a bunch of things that you would kind of narrate to
Hmm.
your players. Well, someone, I think someone took that and like expanded upon it on the DM's guild, to where you like, instead of like going into this book and just kind of like being an observer, you
Hmm.
participate and you kind of like go through these scenes. So it's
Oh,
like
that's
in the,
cool.
yeah. So that's why I don't think we can actually influence anything, but like,
Yeah.
while we're in the book, it is kind of like influencing things. And um and Strata's were like remembering encountering one of the characters throughout it. So it's like, can we change the outcome through this book? I don't think we probably can, but that, like, that's been kind of fun to kind of like tinker around with.
That's awesome. I love that idea of like role playing through a storybook inside of a campaign. That's brilliant. Did you say DM Jazzy Hands?
Yeah.
They're awesome. You're so lucky.
Well, that whole group is like
Yeah.
Goblin Kate, V from the Crafting Muse, James
Yeah.
Intercaso,
Oh, that's so cool.
Sam, Eugenio's partner, and Astrid pops in from time to time. So it is a really fun group. We did like a weekend sleepover kind of celebration party last year around this time, just before everything shut down.
Yeah, this is literally a year before everything went crazy. Like I was just at PAX South a year ago. I was talking to Eric from Idle Champions. He
Yeah.
was posted a picture and I'm like, was that really a year ago? Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but V like opened her house to a bunch of us, and we had VCon uh
Oh, that's so
for for
sweet.
for, for like a weekend of gaming, and we're like, we don't want this to end, so we started like a non-streamed Saturday morning hangout game where everyone's like, well, you know what, we're not going to have anything to do now that everything's shutting down anyway.
Hmm.
But it turns out everyone's super busy anyway. But we've been making it work, so that's been pretty fun. That's been going on.
I miss having like more I used to do like 3 to 4 sessions in a week, which I think is a bit much, but like I've got a Dragonlance campaign that's starting on Monday with Donathan. I always want to say Fire, but it's Fry.
Mm.
And I did Dragonlance with him over on Grimjack's channel a while ago, and I am so excited because they're such an amazing DM. The players we've got in that campaign are going to be so fun. It's not going to be streamed though, but I kind of enjoy that it's not going to be streamed because
Sometimes it's nice to like
sometimes it's
have.
nice to just chill. We had a home game that was going for Rime of the Frost Maiden with my friend DM Plum Loco that had just started, but then COVID got really bad, and they have family that works in retail. They're an essential worker, so we just couldn't mix anymore, which really sucks. So we tried doing it through Zoom,
Yeah.
and I was like, I really want this game because it's set in Icewind Dale, because I'm such a huge Drizzt nerd, and Loth, obviously, Spider Queen. Like, that's something I really want to do in person.
The this past weekend I had 3 games scheduled, 2 canceled. I still ended up playing, which is kind of weird. So much D&D going on.
Candlekeep is coming out too. I'm so excited. And Tasha's was so good. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot wait. And I'm excited to see because Dragonlance went through some sort of legal issues with WotC, and apparently they won whatever they're doing. So I don't know if that means they'll be going to a different publisher or if we'll see some Dragonlance campaign setting, like official Dragonlance campaign settings instead of just homebrew. I'm really curious to know what's going on there.
Yeah, that's like more confusing now than ever, because it's
Well,
like, are they going to do something with Watts, or are they going to just do it on their own?
it's interesting because R.A. Salvatore doesn't publish through WotC. He publishes through a Harper Voyager. And Like I've always wanted to ask him more about that, to be like, hey, how does that work? But I try not to abuse the privilege of being able to speak to him. I feel like I just annoy the crap out of him.
Probably a licensing thing. Watsy just probably takes a cut.
I know, like, he retweets about Drizzt movies quite often, so
Yeah,
I know that's something that I think that he wants. Like, I'm just guessing. I'm not going to speak for him.
he
I,
does.
I,
So
I,
like
I would love it so
when
much.
we talked about what we thought like a D&D movie might look like, um, when he was on, and he's like, well, obviously,
Oh, that's right. He was here not that long ago. I was able
yeah,
to show
yeah.
up for like 10
Thankfully,
minutes of that.
thankfully, he was one of the ones that did not get lost through the cracks.
Yeah, rescheduling that would have been a bitch.
Yeah, yeah. He was such a cool guy to talk to as well. But I don't know. So I don't actually think any of the Dritz stuff would be a good D&D movie. I think it'd be a great fantasy movie, but like here's the distinction, right? A D&D movie is different than a fantasy movie, and you have to decide, what do you want to make? Are you just making another fantasy movie, or do you want this to be like, this is going to highlight D&D?
Hear me out.
Yeah.
Television show. Look what they did to Legend of the Seeker. It could have been so amazing if they had just slow played that. Wizard's First Rule, Terry Goodkind,
Yeah.
such an amazing series, has a formula written in that is perfect for television. And like, if they did something like that for like Netflix or something, and they kind of made it a much more drawn out story, because I don't think you could tell the Drizzt story in a singular movie, not even in 3 movies, to tell you the truth. If they were going to take anything from the Drizzt stories and adapt it into a movie, I think the best choice that they would have would be to go for the Cursed Wolfgar plotline. Spoilers if anybody's watching and hasn't read these books yet, get on it. Um, when he is right after he's been tortured by Ertu, and he goes to City of Pirates, starts with C.
So it's basically like Spine of the World, right?
Yeah, Spine of the World, I think
See,
would make a really good movie.
a lot of people really hated that one, and I actually liked it. It was one of the
Loved that.
why I liked it, because it really like humanized the character, and there was character growth and change. Like I actually like RA's characters around Dritz way more than I like Dritz. Like I like the supporting cast. I always feel like Dritz is frozen in place as a character and doesn't like change very much. Where like there's these amazing arcs with everybody else.
Hmm.
And I think I read for like 20 books before I finally dropped out.
I'm still trying to catch up. It's hard being a content creator and trying to support your favorite content creators, and he is my favorite. I mean, R.A. Salvatore will always be my favorite creator of all time. His books got me through my childhood in some of the worst years of my life. So everything that he does to me is just inspiring.
They were some of the first books I read. I want to say um the Crystal Shard trilogy was probably the next series I read after The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
And so I grew up with those books as well. Um have you read his stuff that's not Wizards of the Coast?
Like his Child of a Mad God and etc.
Yeah, yeah.
I have dabbled, but again, I have a reading list that is going up high. I recommend it to everyone because, like, I did read his Star Wars book, and I don't even like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone, I don't like Star Wars. Stargate and Firefly, though, good stuff. And I was able to love that series, so I know that anything he puts pen to paper is just gold. And I will read it someday, and I'm sure I will love it. I may even end up loving it more than the Drizzt series. Incredibly unlikely, but possible.
It is possible. There are no dark elves. I actually enjoyed like that stuff a lot more than the stuff that he's done inside Forgotten Realms.
I think he was
Um,
talking about in your interview, if I'm not mistaken. It was either your interview or the interview he did before yours. about how Wizards of the Coast did this huge time skip that I believe both him and Ed Greenwood like didn't agree with, and a
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people were upset because all these characters died and then they were reborn again, and they felt like he was just trying to sandbox his characters, and it's just
yeah.
like he couldn't do anything about that. He doesn't
No,
own
no, I
Forgotten
don't.
Realms, you know?
Yeah, I don't think we talked about it, but no, the time skip. It's like Canterbury and I think like was it like Canterbury and Wolfgar like die of old age, or at least Wolfgar does. It's like you can't
Yeah.
just kill Wolfgar with time
Yeah. Well,
off
I mean,
scene.
he's a human.
I but but with it happening off scene like that, just so like yeah. And then again, like you said, it wasn't him when they had to figure out why 4E was and change everything,
Mhm.
which kind of wrecked the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, 4E was weird. I actually really liked the 4E system in the MMORPG Neverwinter Nights,
Uh,
which I am so depressed that more people don't play. I don't understand. It's Hasbro owned, it's D&D, it's an MMO. It's way better than D&D Online. It's pretty, it involves all the gods and characters and spells. I just it boggles my mind that more people don't play it. But the combat system for a video game actually transferred over really, really well. But since I say this, they've actually upgraded Neverwinter to 5th edition combat rules, which kind of
yeah.
sucks, but yeah.
I don't video game, as I said on here many times, just because I have an addictive personality, and it's like I think briefly I considered Baldur's Gate. I'm like, we could stream that here, and it would be like work, and then I'm like, oh, I won't do anything else.
Yeah, no, it's video
It's a trap.
games are a trap. I People always go to me, "Oh, you're a full-time streamer. All you do is play video games for a living. That must be so nice." And I'm like, "Yeah, take what you do for fun and make it work and then tell me how relaxing it is when you do it off stream." Because now if I play a video game, even if it's a board game with friends, I'm like, "How can I turn this into content?"
Yeah, I do find like when I take in other like content or watch YouTube videos, it is pretty much almost never D&D stuff or tabletop RPG stuff anymore, just because we do it, so often.
Yeah. I pretty much only play Heroes of the Storm on my channel now, even though
Yeah,
my stream name is Role Players still, which kind of counts because there's roles to play in Heroes of the Storm. But I don't know. I
what
need
is
I
what character are you playing in the upcoming Dragonlance game?
I am actually, because it makes sense in the storyline. There's a whole, you can find it on YouTube. It's called May Black Roses Blooms, and it's on Grimjack21502. I'll type that into chat in a second. I'm playing Honoria Salanthus, which was actually, I reached out to Margaret Weiss and I said, just randomly, I was like, it never hurts to ask. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in a Dragonlance campaign. Would you mind naming my character? And she's like, yeah, her name is Honoria Salanthus. And I'm like, holy shit, you responded to me.
Oh,
That's
that is
so
so
cool.
cool.
So Honoria is someone, and obviously none of this is canon. It's our own homebrew stuff. Honoria is a young noble girl who was going to be forced into marriage in the typical medieval, like, here is your dowry, you must go marry this person that you don't really like. And she was like, I don't want to do any of that, and decided to become a wizard. That's squishing that story down as much as I
Yeah,
can, because that campaign was played for 2 years. And we ended up going from Dragonlance into Ravenloft. The mists got us, and we ended up, dealing with Lord Soth and everything. And by the end of it, their characters were hurtled through time. They started in one of the wars in Dragonlance, went forward in the future, and they got hurtled back through time. And my same DM did a paid Patreon campaign. He's like, hey, we're going to do Dragonlance, a wizard's campaign. Is anybody interested? And I slammed that button and threw my money down as hard as I could. And I said, hey, since we're starting in Ishtar before Ishtar was even a full city. It's just a little fishing village right now. So none of the king priest or anything like that. I don't know how familiar you are with Dragonlance. Um, and I asked, like, since we're starting wizards that are from the earliest eras of Dragonlance, and since Honoria got hurtled through time, could I bring that character back and finish her story? Because I didn't feel personally like it was completed. It was a great, like, I feel like the whole, everybody's story in that campaign and the story that the DM was trying to tell was completed. But I have a really hard time letting D&D characters go. Like I love playing. I've never played a character 1 through 20, and that's what we're going to do in this campaign is we're going to do a character 1 through 20. I've done 1 through 16, I've done 1 through 10, I've done 15 through 20, but I've never had, in 23 years of playing, I've never had the full experience, and I know that this DM can do it. Dawn is so amazing, and so yeah, I haven't even decided if I'm gonna, because we did, before chronomancy existed, Dawn made his own chronomancy. And it is absolutely uncanny to how many of the spells that he wrote for my character are very similar to Matthew Mercer's chronomancy. And I was just like, oh, great minds think alike. So I don't
Yeah,
know if I'm going to do chronomancy or if I'm going to stick with abjuration and the chronomancy spells that he made, but I am just so excited to play. Sorry, that was a rant, but I am so excited.
that is fine. Well, I feel like Chronomancer, he's kind of like dipped in and out of the game since, the earliest editions. So, they may have been inspired by some of the same sources.
hmm
Uh what level is that campaign starting at?
That campaign is starting at level 1. And we did have a chronomancer around. That's right. There was a dwarf in there as well as a chronomancer. Yeah, Grimjack, yes. Stefan, yes, you linked to the channel. Thank you very much. I love you. Yeah, it's starting at level 1, which is that's another reason I'm so excited. Level 1 characters do not have a high survivability rate. I believe it's like less than 50-50 if you actually do the math and crunch the numbers. But I'm sure we'll be fine. It'll be fine. We're just a bunch of squishy wizards going to take our test at the Towers of High Sorcery. No big deal.
The all wizard party. I think Ted is starting a game with his Chaos Crew group. They're doing all wizards too.
Yeah, wizards are just so great. For the first time in my life, on my Zune Vondry character in the home game that I play with her, she got Wish, and it is just the most broken thing. She lost it, unfortunately. She only got to cast it 3 times, and that's big sad. But when you can use that spell, if
I
you
feel
can
like
downtime stuff, it's broken.
I feel like wizards in 5e are goddamn tanks next to first edition though.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Everything in first edition. I mean, you even had to
Uh,
walk in a certain marching order. Like, I liked second edition revised the most out of all of the D&D campaigns that I played in. I miss Thaco. I miss Chromatic Orb being a ball of death at level 8, casting like just plain ball of death hurtling towards you. I miss the magical items. I miss the magical encyclopedia, all that stuff, and I hope we get to see those things kind of revisited.
Trickle back
But
in.
yeah,
It'll
but
take a while with the current release schedule. So,
oh yeah, absolutely, and the different teams that are releasing stuff and whatnot, and like. But the thing is, I don't mind waiting. I'll be playing D&D for the rest of my life, and I can hardly get through all the stuff that they're producing right now. So maybe you know what, slow it down even more. I don't care.
yeah, no, I like the slow burn because anything that staves off a new edition for at least a little while.
hmm I like 5e the best now though. I thought for a long time that I would always rail against the gates and be like, "Hey, second edition is the best." But if I'm looking at the broad blanket world of D&D and everybody included from new players to old players, I think that it's the most versatile. I mean, the way that it's written in the book and the way that you can play it, I mean, you don't have to make an intelligence investigation check if you don't want to. You can make a wisdom investigation check and just kind of move those stats around. And I like that because it allows for a lot of what you would call in video games like theory crafting or limit testing or doing other stuff. And that appeals to the video gamer in me. I hope they
The
make a new
I
D&D
feel like
video game.
5e did a good job of capturing a lot of stuff from AD&D, kind of
Mhm.
like the feel
Yeah.
of it. Um, I know Shallender just mentioned and I've definitely seen a lot of other people mentioning that the characters are a lot more powerful and heroic in 5e. But to a certain extent, like actually we have a video about this coming up. We kind of talked about it. I feel like I feel like some of the intent was there to make characters like this in earlier editions from the designers, but I don't think the design was there yet.
Mhm.
Like, like they were still figuring out how to make RPGs in these games where like today's designers you know, the past 50 years to build upon.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily blazing the trails.
Yeah. I mean, and they're picking up amazing people over at WotC too. I was so happy to see Dan Dillon become part of the crew over there. He is such a blessing.
Yeah, he is certainly good people's. Although the only downside is we used to be able to have him on the show.
And now you
Uh,
can't.
yeah, now you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah, I got to play in a campaign with him when he was doing Midgard and do Kari,
Yeah.
my character over there. That was fun. Yeah, lots of people getting their way in the world, moving on up, and it's good to see. You love
Uh,
to see it.
Ted is playing in a game with Dan Dillon over on Jake's channel, Mini Domain Terrain. I think
Oh,
that's
that's
right.
cool. Like XP to level 3?
No, no. Uh, Mini Domain Terrain. I think that's what
Okay.
his channel's called. He's done a lot of the Jaspers streams
Oh,
and,
cool,
and
cool,
run
cool,
them.
cool.
Um,
So many cool people to keep up with. It's hard.
yeah, yeah. He used to do. I think he also used to do a lot of terrain builds and stuff, and has kind of moved almost exclusively into streaming. He's got this one build that he does, and he runs, and he also does like a stream version of it, of this awesome pyramid that like comes apart,
Hmm.
and you can like as you play through it, so you can go through the different levels and stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like witchcraft or sorcery.
Ah, I found the Dragonlance episode. Sorry. I said I was going to link that in chat like 10 minutes ago. Oops. Sorry, friends. There you go. There's a link.
Yeah.
I love coming on the show because I love you all, but I sometimes forget that we're just live streaming. I feel like I'm just hanging out and chatting with Dave.
Yeah, yeah. It is a lot of fun when I can have people on that are not just like cool people doing stuff, but people that I kind of know, and it's like
Mm,
just it is like you said, you're just hanging out with friends.
hanging out. It's easy.
So you guys are gonna be playing in Dragonlance before the Cataclysm.
Yeah. 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 I'm super excited to see what Don does. Donathan Fry is just such an incredible DM. I remember playing with him very early, and I was just like, I don't understand how this person is not the most popular dungeon master of all time. And I truly think that he will become so. The more work that he does with LFM and his Patreon groups, and the more people that see his content, he is brilliant.
You think he's gonna culminate that campaign with the Cataclysm?
Fuck, that would suck. I mean, like, it's hard to say because I know that Don has no problems breaking timelines and just doing whatever he feel like. And I know that Dragonlance is one of the things that is very near and dear. Dragonlance, Ravenloft, and Dark Sun, from what I know of Don, are probably his three major campaign inspirations. And I know that for him, storytelling is super important. I don't think that he would stick to the Cataclysm if he felt like his story would be more entertaining for us. But at the same time, he's also a devious bastard who may throw down an entire rock upon us. So who knows? I literally cannot guess with that man, which is part of what makes the story with him so exciting.
So Doug wants to know if you've created any game content that's been published anywhere. If not,
Um,
if not, any interest in doing so.
I did consult on some drow content with Plum Loco on DM's Guild. I actually run my own. This is gonna be probably the dorkiest thing I've said in a while, but on my Discord server, I run a play-by-post Dungeons and Dragons group. It's not actually D&D. It's very heavily inspired by D&D, but because we want to make it our own system, fantasy medieval. Where is it? Avara. God, please. I'm sorry. This is such an ugly website, but I do it all myself and I do it off Wix. So please do not hate me.
Mhm.
Um, I have the play by post, and we've created a combat matrix. So instead of doing spells traditionally, like you would do, like I cast Fireball, it's like rock paper scissors, I guess, is the easiest way to play it or say it, but much more complicated than rock paper scissors. There are, at least 12 different options. If you've ever larped, you like, especially Vampire the Masquerade, you'll be familiar with those kind of combat systems. um and I have a safer work version of that in my main Discord, which I will pop over into this. And I also have an erotic roleplay Discord, which is set in the same world because, as an 18 plus content creator, sorry if you're just getting here, I did mention that I do that kind of stuff. And erotic roleplay is probably one of my favorite things to do. People that are in a fantasy world and consenting to awesome stuff that you can do with spells is it's great.
Yeah, and also as always, there's links in the description, and it's a good, probably a good time to say some of that stuff is 18 plus and not safe for work. So you've been warned.
Yes, I will continually try to remind everybody that I am an 18 plus content creator. I am 34 years old. I have seen and done most of it, but not at all. um I would like to do more content creation. I've just been approached by another person who is releasing stuff on DM's Guild about helping with Menzo Barons and stuff. As like, I know we've done a lot of talking about Dragonlance, but Forgotten Realms is really my favorite place to be. And I'll probably do more consulting work. But the thing is, I am a full time plus or a full time 18 plus content creator. I am a full time Twitch partner. I run this play by post Discord. I also work out and clean my own house. And there are just simply not enough hours. I'm working on a book. There is just not enough hours in the day to do all of the things that I want to do. And quite frankly, I do not believe that I am intelligent enough to craft something into a game that is playable in that regards. I am more of a world builder than a game designer. So if I can find people that are interested in, using the creative parts of my brain that want to work together, please feel free to reach out to me. On my Twitter is my email. I am looking for more streamed games and things like that as well. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask. If I say no, please do not take it personally. It is likely just because I am very busy on the day that you have proposed the game. um,
Well, I'm not so sure that you're not, capable enough. I mean,
I
I,
I
I
it
think you're
would
selling yourself short, a little short there.
I could probably do it, but the, the realism is that with 18 plus work, I don't have to work that hard, at least not right now. Maybe when I walk away from that industry and I need to do harder work, then sure, absolutely, I will. But right now, I get to just have fun and make money, and I'm gonna ride that wave until it crashes.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, you know, um, are you doing any GMing other than the play by post stuff, the tech stuff?
I dabble with it in some at-home stuff. I would love to do a proper, in my mind, proper Menzo Berenson campaign set around the time of Driz Durin's books, in Homeland Sojal and Exert, especially because Timeless came out and you get to see a little bit more of that backstory and what's going on behind the scenes there. I actually, when the play by post server was first being created, it was because I was DMing a Menzo Berenson campaign, and Mike Shelley makes this beautiful map of Menzo Berenson, and I actually went through all of the different houses that he made and gave them positions. And what we did was kind of a mix between a board game and Dungeons and Dragons, because in Menzo Berenson and in the Underdark, you actually can't teleport. I think in rules is written, I might be wrong about this, don't quote me. You can't teleport more than 2 miles because of the Farsres, which is a magical uh thing that happens in the Underdark. It can warp monsters, it can make spells go crazy, which is why when the dark elves come to the surface, it's supposed that their spells go awry because they don't have the Farsres magic around them, but some people just say they're using that as an excuse to kill other people. That was the last serious thing that
That sounds
IBM.
accurate, though. I
Yeah,
know that
yeah, no.
affects it a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it makes it so that you can twist monsters outside of, I mean, you can do that stuff anyways, but it's a really easy plot hook to twist monsters beyond what they would be anyways. I mean, take a displacer beast and make them even more badass and just be like, ah, Farce Res did it. Farce Res did it. Ah, Farce Res did it. I don't need to be creative. I just have exposition written in for me.
Yeah, that works. I try to think of the module, the adventure from second edition, and it's got like the drow, female drow on the cover. Um, and it definitely affected me in my formative years of adolescence. Which that stuff does not fly anymore for sure.
No, unfortunately, it does not, which makes me really sad because I loved
It
all
was,
that
I think
stuff.
it was the adventure after the Slave Lords.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
have it.
remember the name of it.
It's not in here.
It was all
I
like part of the Elemental Evil series.
I have it somewhere, but I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
So how would you run that game?
I mean, probably exactly the way that it was written. I That's part of, like, I don't want to say R-rated, but like I'm okay with those themes. A lot of
Uh
people will change and edit things out, but like I don't have problems with those. It is something that really confuses me a lot. Again, please use safety tools. Please play games at your table how which make you and your people most comfortable. But Game of Thrones was huge, massively huge, and the things they did in that show were fucking awful. There were some scenes in there that I won't mention because I don't want to make people uncomfortable, but there were scenes
yeah.
in there that were fucking awful compared to, and like people will watch that and they'll be like, I fucking love Game of Thrones, but then you bring that to a table and then they're like, no, I don't want to do this, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. Why is
Yeah.
something okay because it's on television, but if you're bringing it to your fantasy, you're not okay with that?
I
Again, personal comfort levels, do what you got to do, but I don't understand why people will praise one thing but shame another.
yeah, I guess the difference is one is you're an observer and the other you're a participant.
That makes a lot of sense,
So
actually.
I think that's it. But and again too, like it's always about what your group has decided on. What your group has discussed before you go into the game.
Hmm.
Um, and also having the proper safety tools involved in case things do get a little bit further afield than were intended. Uh,
Yeah, I've struggled with that in the past where I have people that come and sit down at a table and they're like, "Oh, I don't care about anything. You can do anything." And
yeah,
then later on, it turns out like you cannot do anything and they will become upset. And I'm just like, "I am so sorry. I thought you said that you were okay with
yeah,
literally everything. That's why we have these safety cards for you to fill out. Like, please don't say that you can do anything and because you want to sound like a badass. Like if there's stuff that makes you uncomfortable, please just let people know because nobody wants to hurt another person at their table.
no, and it's also a good way to lose players as well, which is never
Queen
good.
of the Demon Web Pits, I thought that was first edition. That's
Well, I had mentioned the thing, and I've been kind of searching for it as we talk, and it's literally just Queen of Spiders.
hmm. Yeah.
I found the cover. It's got the sexy drow queen, and then it's got fire giants in the background.
Yeah, that's the one. I played through that campaign actually as I think I ended up becoming Loth at the end of it with Grant Ellis.
Oh,
He
nice.
did his campaign over on Twitch and he changed it ever so slightly to be more Twitch appropriate.
Oh yeah, is that the game we played in? Like I wasn't there for the whole thing. I was there for like part of it.
Yeah, yeah, he had a
Yeah,
lot of guests on an episode. Yeah, I think that was the one. I'm pretty sure that was the one.
that was fun because I was playing a Kenku, and
Right. Yes.
and I tried to incorporate like when that character would go to say things, I would try and say things that other players have been saying. And your character was fun to try and mimic because your character is very like sultry
Yep.
in the way they speak, and then me trying to mimic that is just funny to me anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but
I don't know what you're talking about, darling.
Exactly.
Voice acting was something that I never did in D&D. It didn't even occur to us when we were kids to use different voices for our characters, and that's something that came out of Twitch and live streaming, and I'm so thankful for it because I love voice acting my characters now, and I think it makes it a huge distinction for like my DM and players about when I'm in character and when I'm not. Um,
It got
but
introduced a little bit early on for us gaming, only because like there was a decent amount of age difference in our group. So like we would have like high school uh aged gamers, college aged gamers, and like a couple adults.
When I first played D&D, I was at a comic book store and I was into Magic the Gathering at the time, and all the cool older kids were in the back room playing D&D, and D, and you'd always hear all sorts of sounds coming out of there and you'd be like, "What are they doing?"
Yeah.
And after I had my deck stolen as a kid, I was really sad, and they were like, "Oh, come play D&D with us. It'll make you feel better." And I was like, "Nothing can make me feel better." And it turns out D&D made me feel a lot better.
It has
And
that
we
effect on
had
us.
people there that were as young as like 13, 14, playing with adults that, were in their 40s and 50s, and it was just everybody getting together for a game, and it was great.
So some of those people were like theater kids and larpers. So
Hmm.
that's how we did end up getting like voices and stuff started to be interjected into our games. I mean, but still, it was only like a small portion of the table that was kind of into that. Um, and and now it's gone way more down that road. And I'll do voices sometimes, but not all the time. I always forget what the voices are. Like I'll come up with a character voice, and then I'll forget what the character voice is. I'm like terrible at that stuff.
I had to write mine down when I was at the peak of playing in my D&D games because I would forget to. I had to write down things that were characteristics of my character because they all started to blend together. Especially when D&D and role playing is your life. Like there's
Yeah.
so many different things that you got to remember. Well, you
And
don't
any
got to
given
remember,
week,
but
I've got like 3 or 4 games going on. So
I'm glad to be back up to 2. I don't think I could ever do 4 games a week again. I think that was too much. I think 2 games is the perfect amount for me.
yeah. Well, most I will say though, like most of them are not streamed too, so it's not. It doesn't feel like work.
Mhm.
And then and like so we like play some games that are monthly, but we
Mhm.
just like rotate out what we're playing on a given Saturday. So I mean, I think that kind of makes it easier. It helps us mix it up. It is also the only way we were ever able to get to a full like first to 20th level campaign. Both me and Ted had ran with 5e. It took years, but in the previous decades, we had never been able to accomplish that. So
Yeah,
it felt like an achievement.
there's a certain point where it feels like your characters are just so powerful, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm so obsessed with the theory of like divine spark and AO and like divine portfolios and the world tree and things like that. My character, almost all of them now, because I know what I like. I've played every single class, every single edition. I like wizards and wizards that are either trying to become a lich or trying to become a god. Something I've never achieved in a D&D campaign, which I'd
Sounds
love
like
to
someone's got a
someday.
little bit of a wrestling complex.
Yeah, a little bit, huh? A little bit. I wonder who inspired me there. Yeah, no, Honorius Lanthus actually has golden eyes as well. I did a
Yeah.
terrible cosplay of her once, but yeah, that the whole idea of avatars and gods walking and having to kill it happened in War of the Spider Queen as well, not so much characters trying to become gods, serve their gods and end up
Time of
eventually
Troubles
becoming
was really
gods.
good for that as well.
So good. It's so good. All that stuff is just like my niche. I love it. I can't get
Yeah.
enough of it.
So we're coming up on the hour mark, and I actually have to run to another stream from here. But I'm so glad you came on, T, and have you back.
Well, thank you for having me.
Final thoughts before we head out?
Um, Sign up to my OnlyFans.
There you go. Boom. Links to your Twitch and Twitter in the description. Find the breadcrumb, follow the breadcrumbs, and you can find Tia as much as Tia as you want. You've been warned. So until next time, stay nerdy.
Bye.